This is the Tech Talent Talk from BrainCal. Today's talk is about container services in Azure and how Visual Studio helps us to build projects with Docker support enabled. Many applications are moving towards a container-based approach for good reasons. Containers allow us to separate our and application's environmental concerns from the application itself. Configuring our application to run on different target environment is time consuming. With containers, we can explicitly state what kind of environment our application needs and then have that environment automatically created for us instead, whether it's our local dev environment or our company's private data center or even the public cloud offering like Azure. Containers gives us the freedom not to worry, since the exact same environment is created to host our application. It will probably work everywhere and not just on developers' machine. To achieve this consistency, the explicit instructions that describe what our application needs and how to form its required environment are saved in a file known as container image. You can create as many instances of container as you would like using a given container image definition. Most common container image specification used is Docker. And I'm going to explain you how we can create that in Azure subscription. Docker, which supports Linux and Windows, is open source and is supported by all major cloud platforms like Azure. Just go to your Azure subscription and then click on the Azure command shell prompt button on the top, as you can see on the screen, and then start typing the Azure command prompts to create the Kubernetes cluster. Uh, I typed in here AZ, which is Azure, AKS is Azure Kubernetes Services, and create is to create the Azure Kubernetes cluster. And then you have to give a few more parameters on the command prompt, like once you are in your Azure subscription, you need to create a resource group and then link this to that resource group. And then you are creating this for what environment? Dev, QA, pre-prod, or prod. You have to mention that. I have put dev here, and then you have to give the name for your Azure Kubernetes cluster, which I'm going to do it now. And since Kubernetes helps us to manage the containers very well. That is why we need to create this Azure Kubernetes cluster. So we have given a name, and then we also need to specify how many nodes will be there as per the need of our application. Since it is dev, I will give the node count as 1, okay, because in dev do not need to have multiple nodes. But as you move on from dev to QA, QA to pre-prod and prod, you need to have multiple nodes, to load balance your, load and, application stress when needed. So that is what, is getting done here. And then, you need to basically give the generate command to, create the Azure Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so generate that with, SSH keys. And in few seconds, you will see, that this command will run and create the Azure Kubernetes cluster. And here you go. It has created the Azure Kubernetes cluster. Then on the command prompt, it'll ask 3 more things. You say yes, and then again you say yes, and your Kubernetes cluster has been created. You can check by giving Kubernetes cluster command, and then it will get you the node that it has created. So mainly the Kubernetes is used uh, to load balance your application, okay, when needed. And now what I'm going to show you that the Docker support that is needed is inbuilt in Visual Studio. So when you go to Visual Studio and when you try to create a new project, okay, here I'll create a new project, and the project will be of type, web application. Okay, you can create any kind of project, but I'm going with the web application project. Okay, so once you have selected and given name to your project, okay, give a name to your project and then say create. And the most important part here is here you can see the enable Docker support, which is very important. So the Docker support file, the image definition file will get created as part of your project. And as you go on building a project, the Docker file will keep collecting the environmental and various other details. And these definitions will be used later on to create similar containers later on. Okay, there are many things in the file. In another video, I will show you what parameters you need to tweak and what not. But for now, this is how you build your Visual Studio, projects with Docker, support enabled. Okay, and these Docker, definition image definition files will be used to create, your QA, pre-prod, and prod environments where our application will get hosted later on. So it is very easy, okay, with built-in support in Visual Studio. That's all what I had to show you on the Docker support and how the Kubernetes cluster gets created to manage the containers. Okay, please subscribe to the channel for more tech talent talks from BrainCal. Also, like the video if it is helpful for you. Thank you very much. See you in the next talk.